$36,000, guys. That's what I made on this specific wholesale deal. And I'm going to basically break down the reason why I was able to make $36,000 where someone else that probably didn't implement this strategy or probably wouldn't have not implemented this strategy would have walked away with $10,000 or maybe five, right? It's very simple because most wholesalers, they walk away with 5, 10, 15 on every single deal. But this deal, we actually nearly lost it. We ended up renegotiating with the seller and the buyer. We actually ended up switching buyers as well. And in the end, we still managed to sell it for full asking price of $220,000. And we made a little bit over $36,000, right? So this deal actually came through one of our marketing channels, which was Facebook at the time. And the seller situation on this deal, he was basically a tired landlord who had trouble managing the property, right? His tenants had completely destroyed the place after leaving the property. It had electrical issues, right? It needed a new panel box to be installed, which was already installed, but we didn't know that the tenants had actually hired a company to get it installed, hoping the seller would pay it. But in the end, the seller actually didn't even pay for that. So the company who had installed it actually placed a lien on the property. So we had to close the property with a fucking lien. And, obviously that's where the renegotiation comes in and all that fun stuff that we were able to lock the deal up for much less. We originally locked it up for $186,500, and in the end, we managed to get it down to $171,000, right? So basically, we lock it up under contract for $186,000. We lock it up as a novation agreement, as you guys can see here with the contract for that price. Let's pull it up here real quick. Signed with the buyer, right? Which is us at the time, till we switch ourselves out on a novation agreement. The inspection period drama, guys, because this is real fucking crazy. Because after we get the deal locked up, right, we list it on the MLS for 220. We get a cash offer for 210. Now, we were super excited. We're like, okay, let's just get it done because it was like super quick. I think it was like the first or second day. But this guy had a inspection period, which, on the MLS, it's normal, right, to say that, a lot of your cash offers on the MLS would come with inspection periods, and it was like a 2-day inspection period. We typically don't do inspection periods, but for some reason on this deal, we felt confident, and we went ahead and gave him the inspection period, right? But during an inspection period, he wanted to renegotiate for $24,000, and there's basically no room, right, to negotiate for $20,000. We were end up gonna make like I don't know, maybe nothing to zero, or I don't know, it was like 2 or 3K that we were gonna end up making, right? We told him it wasn't gonna happen, and we'd put it back on the market if necessary, right? But meanwhile, while that was happening, we actually went back with all those findings that came back from the inspection report from the buyer that was supposedly going to buy the property, and we ended up negotiating with the seller, and ultimately he came down from 186,000, which we originally had that locked in, to 176,000, right? And we listed it back on the market for 220,000, right? So now we had more room and more profit margin to play with in the case that we do find somebody and they still want to renegotiate. Right? But luckily, we found the buyer within like a matter of days, right? We decided to list it back on the MLS for 220, and wouldn't you know it, we got another full price offer. But as soon as we thought the roller coaster was clear, the realtor drama kicked back in, right? Because the buyer, realtor, right, the buyer's agent actually wanted a 4% commission, but it's like ridiculous because she was like going back and forth and adamant about it, like, look, I want 4%, I'm working for 4%, I'm not doing this for free, back and forth, right? And ultimately we end up negotiating it at 2.5. Like, these realtors don't really fucking understand because it's so frustrating. Like, look, let's just get the deal done. I'm not in the business to get one deal and make a whole bunch of money. Like, I'm a volume guy. Most of these realtors don't know what the fuck they're doing because they're just like, I want to make the most amount of money. That just means they're not closing deals, right? They're not selling deals. So they need to squeeze as much money as they can, right? But obviously, after going back and forth for a day or so, we ended up locking in the full price offer for 220, and we got that 2.5%, which, you know, obviously we kind of stay between 1 to 2%, rarely go to 2.5, but there's certain circumstances and cases that, you know, we do, you know, give a little bit more, which was, it was difficult to get her down, but ultimately we got it, right? And you guys can see here the offer, full price. Boom, that's the realtor. Oh no, that's the buyer and that's the seller. But this is the full asking price offer that we got. Right? Now, look at this, because this is fucking crazy, right? The house, guys, after the tenants moved out, right? Because once we got that cash off, the loan in, right? The offer in that came from the buyer with the loan with the VA. The tenants were in the process of moving out, right? Because the property had to be delivered vacant. That was one of the terms that we agreed upon. The house was a complete fucking mess. The tenants, so they left it like this, right? This is just one picture. I can go on and on for days. I mean, these guys left trash in the yard. I mean, it was insane, right? They were just not happy with the seller because of the electrical situation, right? We had to step in and, you know, hire a cleaning crew and, you know, manage the crew, make sure everything was clean and neat for the buyers, right? The biggest issue came when we found that the electrical panel had a lien on the property. The tenants had ordered a new panel, but the seller who was supposed to pay for it didn't, right? The tenants were upset because they couldn't get power and hadn't paid the company, right? So imagine if you're a tenant and there's no power in your house and you have to change the panel and you hire a company to change the panel, right? And the seller agrees to pay it and never pays for it, right? And then the company just goes and places a lien. So we couldn't actually just pay the company, right, to remove the lien, right? It actually needed to be fixed because in order for the lien to be cleared, it was missing like some part of the panel, which I can't remember now. But we actually needed to close on the property with the lien and then actually pay the electrical company in order to fix it and then remove the lien, right? So just think about that. The seller was not going to do that at all. I mean, this guy was just a fucking idiot, right? Don't get me wrong, but, you know, there's certain sellers that are just trash, right? It's insane, right? But, you know, to move forward, we had to close with the lien still in place, right? We held back part of our assignment fee from escrow and used these funds to pay the electrical company to lift the lien. After a few days, we received our $5,000 back from escrow and everything was cleared up. Now, mind you, because of all this situation, right, which we already had renegotiated above, which I'll show you guys here, which we went over, because of other findings that we found from the first buyer's inspection, right? So we already got him down. Now, when these items were discovered as far as the electrical panel and the tenants leaving the property a mess, right? We actually got him down even more, right? Another $5,000, right? So that was really, really cool because, look, guys, you have to understand when there's issues with the property, right? You can always go back and renegotiate. I love doing this because it just puts yourself in a position where, you know, you let the sellers know that, hey, look, this is going on the property now, right? You did not tell me about this, right? So it's just another way where you can actually have clear communication with the seller and let them know, like, look, you know, you told me one thing and now it's something completely different, right? So were you lying to me or is this something that just happened now, right? So that's where you can kind of get them on the price, right? And obviously with the VA loan, there's certain challenges with the VA loan. It's like if you ever close a VA loan, it's fucking insane, right? And that's why we built this system that allows you to partner on deals like this, so you're not having to go through all of these fucking situations, having to hire a cleaning crew, having to renegotiate with the seller, making sure you have all the paperwork in place, right? That's why, you know, if you want to partner with me on Novation deals, and if you're this long in this video, it just means you want to do Novation deals. You might be just starting out, or you might even be doing Novation deals, right? But it's just too much to handle, right? You have so many other deals going on. That's why we created a systemized process where you just submit the lead, We take over everything, right? And you basically just sit back and collect your check, right? Because imagine you having to send multiple purchase agreement, negotiating with the buyer's agent, negotiating with the seller, negotiating with the actual buyer as well, title companies. It just gets a fucking mess. If you're not organized and you don't have a system in place in order to do novation deals, you're not going to succeed. I can tell you that, and I can guarantee you that right now, right? Because this deal, if I didn't have a systemized process that I use in our company today, we probably wouldn't have been able to close this novation deal. I'll tell you that right now, right? Because the VA has strict stipulations that the process can be a pain, but we work through it. We aren't going to let this one slip away, right? So we actually have the full breakdown here. MLS sales price, which was the asking price that we had listed it on. So full ask, guys. Full ask, right? Buyer's agent 2.5 plus your closing cost. As you guys can see here, we netted $36,000 after paying the invoice, the holdback. I mean, insane, right? Insane. But we get it done, right? That's what we do, right? This one wasn't easy, but here's what we learned. The right contract, we stick to the novation agreement and didn't let the seller push for price drops, throw us off track, right? The right buyers. Even with a VA loan stipulation, we worked with the buyer and got the deal done. The right strategy, right? Not every deal is simple, but that's why we're here. We push through the tough spots and get things closed. And guys, I want to basically put you guys on. If you want to start closing novations and you want to start putting novations in your toolbox, right, in order to increase your profit margins and are tired of the 10K spreads, 15K spreads, right, because those will stretch you out thin. If you're only doing 2 deals a month and you're spending on marketing, right, and let's say 1 month goes bad, I mean, those 10K, 15K, if you don't have anything saved up, if you're just, deal to deal, kind of like a paycheck to paycheck, you're fucking screwed. But let's say you have 2 of these or 1 of these every month, right? You're golden with the same amount of marketing money you're spending right now, because I tell you right now, there's a lot of leads in your CRM that might work and that might qualify for a novation deal. So if you want to work with us, right, whether it be learning novations or just simply partnering with us on a novation deal, just fill out the link. I'll leave the link in the description below for you guys. Okay? So, yep, that's pretty much it, guys.